Hello and welcome to another episode of the Flagstaff County Podcast. I'm Cary Castagna, Communications Coordinator for Flagstaff County. I am joined today by Kelly Harris, who works out of the Flagstaff County shop as our parts technician. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
You're listening to the official podcast of Flagstaff County. First of all, Kelly, tell us a little bit about what you do as Flagstaff County's parts technician.
I divvy out parts to the mechanics when they need stuff. I purchase parts. I keep the inventory as close as I can. That's pretty much it.
Now, the reason I asked you to join me today is that there is a Russian cloak and some theater props that you made that are in the Royal Alberta Museum. Now, that sounds like quite the honor.
It is. It is an incredibly wonderful honor to have. And the theater props, although they were designed and built by me, some of the finishing touches were not mine, but most of them are, and they look really awesome.
All right, so let's just start from the beginning then. How did this all come about? How does someone from the Flagstaff region get to have one of their creations in a museum in Edmonton?
Back in 1991, I had become so introverted that I had problems talking to people. So I decided that the best way to get around that was to get myself involved in something very public. So I got involved with the Czar Theatre. And it just went from there. It turned out that I'm pretty creative.
Like, you live in Flagstaff. What part of Flagstaff?
Actually, at the time, I was living in Amisk.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's halfway between here and Czar.
Okay, makes sense. And you just dove right into it.
Absolutely.
So can you talk about what the display entails, first of all?
Okay, the display itself I designed a Russian royal coronation cloak. It was based on the design that Tsar Nicholas wore when he was coronated in the early 1900s. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the year. But it was purple with a collar and lapels of white ermines, and it had on the back a large Russian, it was a type of eagle, and you'll see it in most anything to do with Russia, where it has the two large claws. One claw has a specter, and the other claw has a globe symbolizing the world. And what was added to it after I got it to the point where it was ready to go, they added jewels on the back, and it was a thing of beauty. It looked really spectacular on stage. Really spectacular. And I made two of them, one for Tsar Nicholas and one for the Tsarina Alexandria.
And then obviously the one is shown in the museum.
The one is shown in the museum, because after all, you don't need two to show that something is wonderful.
Okay, and I just wanted to back up a little bit. So, and you've always been a seamstress then, or you've always been inclined to?
No, actually, it wasn't until I got involved in the theater that I really started to pick it up. I mean, you take home ec in school,
yeah,
but being involved in the theater, it opens you up to coming up with ideas just off the top of your head to fit a situation. So if they needed something specific, I would try and come up with a design that would work. And this is how I came up with for the cloak.
So, and did you start off acting too, or?
Oh yeah, I started off acting.
And then how did you
I
suddenly start?
actually just because when you're in a theater like that, actually theater in Alberta is a big thing, and it always has been. You have lots of smaller towns and villages that have dinner theaters once a year, every year, and have for many, many years. It's a big thing all across Alberta.
Yeah.
It's not just specific to one area. And that's the beauty of theater. It allows so many people to have so much involvement in something really that's a part of our history and our culture. And I started out going on stage to try and get over my fear of talking to people. And now I would love to be involved in the theater again. Unfortunately, right at this point, I have no time.
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful thing.
So, and how long did this last?
Now, I was involved in it for 7 years. And every year that we had a play in Czar, it was different. And it wasn't a play out of a book. To begin with, the Czar Theatre was improv. And then over the course of time, a wonderful woman by the name of Marion Kelch became involved, and she started writing plays for them. And she would write the music as well. Actually, she has several tracks on Apple iTunes if you're interested in looking her up. So we've done more than just the Russell Royal Court. We've done one about socks, how socks get lost in the dryer, and you end up with mismatched socks, and toe field, a field of toes, We did one, the first one I was involved with was called White House on the Rideau. So if you could imagine Jackie Kennedy running our Canadian government during the time of Brian Mulroney. This is what we did. Just some of the weird things.
It was pure comedy.
It was, absolutely. But then, we have done some serious stuff as well. And I learned so much because Marion is a teacher, and she's just a natural born teacher. So a lot of the stuff that she did, you would just automatically learn from her because she was so good. So we did one about Glenn Gould. He's a very famous Canadian pianist. We did one about the Empress of Ireland, a big CP, I believe it was CP ship that ferried people from Europe to Canada and back, thousands of people. And it was 2 months before the start of the Second World War on one of the Great Lakes in a very bad fog. A Norwegian coal freighter T-boned the Empress, and it sank much faster than what the Titanic did, and many more people perished than what happened on the Titanic. But you hear about the Titanic, but you don't hear about the Empress. And it's just one of those things. The Titanic was much more famous.
Okay, so it was the theater, or it was the Czar Theatre Guild out of Czar.
Correct.
And it was a thriving dinner theater.
Absolutely. We had a packed house 3 nights every year.
So, and when did it all end? Was it when your 7 years were up? Or?
Actually, in... now I can't remember what date it was. We took the Fabergé's Fantasy, which is the one that has the Fabergé eggs and the Russian royal cloak. That was the name of the play. We took it to Edmonton. We at the Citadel Theatre, the McLab Theatre, precisely, and we did it there for 3 nights. I believe it was 1996, 1997, 96. And after that, I have no idea why. The Czar Theatre, well, in my own life, things changed, so I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. But they didn't continue on. Another one of the...
Well, that's a great way to finish.
Yeah.
Is to, do
absolutely.
your final curtain call at the Citadel.
Exactly. Yeah. And we had a packed house there, too.
Wow.
For a little tiny town with just a bunch of farmers and whatever else we happened to be, actors, it was wonderful.
Huh.
Absolutely.
So, and it would have been around 98, right? Because if you said you started in 91,
yeah,
for about 7 years.
It was that's because there was White House on the Rideau, Socks, Remembering Gould, The Empress of Ireland, and then Fabergé's Fantasy for 2. So that's 6 years. And I'm pretty sure, 96, 97, somewhere in there.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then, so you got kind of picked to do the costume creating, or
actually, it's just something that's
you just stepped up and had to do it.
Well, because I had done some of the costuming before. Actually, I went to Edmonton for a week one year because they had a theater thing where people from these small town theaters could go and learn about the lights, about set design, about the costuming, about quite a lot of different, where the professionals were actually teaching us that didn't know much. And it was really, really interesting. I went to the set design one, and I learned quite a lot, about color and light and the amazing things that you can do with it in order to create an effect that looks amazing when you're sitting down watching a theater production. Yeah.
Huh. So you kind of learned on the job and
absolutely.
With a little bit of training.
Yep.
Huh. And obviously you've got the creative flair in you.
Yep, I do. Unfortunately.
All right. So, and then how did it end up that did the museum contact the group, or how did that?
Okay, so as I was saying, Marion has always been, for as long as she was involved with it, a real driving force, and she saved the sets. We had the Theatre Guild had bought a large truck trailer, like van body, and had saved a lot of the costumes and props and all that kind of thing. And she was so impressed with the eggs that she saved them, and she actually tried to get an exhibit at one point with them. But of course, these kind of things come in their own time. And the curator for Western culture knew Marion and knew about the plays, and she was interested in it. So she contacted Marion, and between them, they decided which eggs they were going to put on the display. And in storage, they have some of the other eggs as well, in case they want to go in and change it a little bit, change it up, to keep the interest there, because that's what they do as well.
And then what is the display called? Like, what is it trying to show?
It's in the Western culture area of the museum, okay? And it's showing the culture in our province, okay? That theater in this province is a big thing, and it really is, because if you look around, you'll see the theaters in the little towns. I believe there's one here in Sedgewick, or there was one. I know, I've read about it in the paper. And it's just, this is what they're trying to show, that we're not just a province of oil people and farmers.
Oh, okay.
We have culture. We have more than just that. Yeah.
Huh. And then when did the exhibit go up then?
Oh gosh.
Like this was well after the.
Oh yes,
theater.
this was only a few years ago.
Oh, just a few years back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's. I'm going to say 4 years.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it was well after the theater
absolutely.
group had disbanded.
Yeah.
Huh. And I know, so we're talking about 30 years ago. Would you love to start up another theater group or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's...
I mean, it sounds like you've got a lot of fond memories.
Oh, absolutely. There was so many times. We would start at the early part of January. Okay. So, of course, between January and February, you get the worst weather of the province is during those months. So there was lots of times it was like, oh, I don't want to go outside. It's too cold. It's too blizzardy. And every time, without fail, get out and go because you have to. You know, when you say you're going to do something, you have to do it.
Yeah, those people are relying on you.
Exactly. So you get out, you go, and you come back and say, you know, the weather was really terrible, but I have the best night of my life. It's great. It absolutely is.
And then you did quite a bit of acting then?
Yeah, I did. I found that I prefer doing the costumes and the set design and that kind of thing. I'm okay on the stage. I can do it. And now I know I can do it. But I'd much rather be creative with building the stuff.
Oh. So, and you think back to that decision you made to kind of get out of your shell. I guess it was all worth it. And then you discovered a hidden talent that you had.
Absolutely. If I hadn't made that decision, my life would have been completely different. I never would have realized that I can do what I can do. So it's well worth it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
That's very cool. And you've kept up being a seamstress. You're still sewing for people and family. And
actually, I gave up sewing for people years ago. I got really burnt out. I do it now because I love it. It's it gives me a peace that nothing else does, just to be that creative. And I do it to make people happy, to make me happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So whenever you get an idea for a project or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've made purses. I've made quilts. I got into making quilts, and I made a satin one. Hardest thing I've ever worked with, and it turned out beautifully.
Yeah, as far as having something in a museum, I mean, that's something you can, tell the grandkids, tell family, friends. What do you say to people?
I don't say much.
You don't really talk about it?
No, I don't. When I first got the invitation to go to the theater, I was really, really excited. I told everybody. But after that, I haven't said much to anybody about it.
It's a nice feather in your cap, though, to have leave a legacy like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my grandson is only 6, so he doesn't understand.
Well, eventually he'll be pretty proud of his grandma.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to add or anything I'm forgetting to ask you?
Gosh, not that I can think of. I think culture in Alberta is a living, breathing thing, and it's wonderful to be involved in this small town stuff.
Yeah, and it's not just all oil wells and farm fields.
Exactly. exactly. We have some wonderful, wonderful people here in the province that are so creative and so incredibly smart. It's enough to blow you away.
Yeah, and we have you right here. Well, thank you very much, Kelly, for your time, and I wish you all the best.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was fun.
All right, you take care. All the best.
And you as well.